You are listening to the Two and Out CFL podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
Yes, it's Travis Currah and Sheldon Jones on the Two and Out CFL podcast. This may be the busiest week of the offseason so far.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
There has been a lot going on.
My thumb is sore from just refreshing X constantly.
Getting the old carpal tunnel from checking up on Twitter/X all day long. I have more than carpal tunnel wrong with me, Sheldon. I had a rough weekend.
It's not about the falling.
So I do photography on the side, and I thought it'd be fun to go into the forest on Saturday and see what's out there, take my camera. And the trails were sheer ice, and I have crampons or cleats or whatever to stick onto my boots, but I didn't have them with me. I'm like, well, I'll give it a shot. And I did okay. I guess the most annoying thing is that I was really close to the vehicle, and I run into some other people on the trail, and I'm like, it's brutal out there. And I go down so fast, I can't even tell you exactly how it happened. All I know is that the main point of contact was the back of my head. My glasses go one way, my hat goes the other. I cracked the lens hood on my camera. Thankfully, it appears that's all that happened. I bite the back of my tongue. Oh, and then the next day,
that part.
Well, my tongue was swelling up. It was hard to talk. I couldn't tell if it was concussion symptoms or tongue issues or both. So, and then I fall again on Sunday in my condo parking lot. You know, the fresh layer of snow over the slick ice. And I don't know, last year I had some bursitis in my elbow. So that is flared up again. My knee is killing me. My neck is sore. My tongue is, I think, returning back to normal. But man, I'm
in a week.
I'm feeling pretty rough at the moment, Sheldon. You ever take a spill on ice or what?
Oh yeah, this year I gotta find some. This year is the first year I haven't fallen in the winter yet in a long time, but. We realistically have only had 2 weeks of winter in Regina. It's February 6th and there is not a single flake of snow in my front yard.
A single?
Not a single. There's a little bit on the streets across because we're on a south facing, but yeah, there's no snow. It was pouring rain the other night. I thought my dad texted me. He's like, yeah, better watch out for ice in the morning. And I was like, yeah, it probably will be really icy. No, in the morning, just damp. This is bizarre. I love El Nino. The farmers won't, but give me lifetime El Nino. I'm fine with it.
A little bit different than Nova Scotia. Some places have seen 150 centimeters of snow. So you may be digging out while listening to Two and Out. Best of luck to you in the Maritimes. It is Black History Month in the CFL. And man, some great stories that you actually put on the prep sheet here.
I did some research, yeah.
In 1946, Lou Heyman was the GM of the Montreal Alouettes. He brought in Herb Trawick, making him the first black player in the CFL. Lou, he ended up seeing the way Montrealers had embraced Jackie Robinson with the Montreal Royals and thought that it would be ready to accept a black football player. That's some significant history there. And then Tom Casey was the first black player inducted into the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. And then, of course, the story of Warren Moon, who won 5 Grey Cups in 6 seasons before going to the NFL. And then it was Doug Williams with Washington who became the first black quarterback in the history of the Super Bowl in 1988. but the CFL had already seen Warren Moon, Damon Allen, Roy DeWalt, Danny Barrett, J.C. Watts, Conrad Holloway, and Chuck Ely in Grey Cup games. So the CFL blazing a path forward, which I love to see, and thanks for putting that together, man.
Yeah, no, I love the diversity of strength campaign that the league started a few years ago, and it is great to see that this league that we love was one of the first leagues to allow that. I hate saying the word allow, but like started to accept it. We were a little bit more progressive, and I think Canada in general is a little bit more progressive. So it's just good to see. It's sad that it had to be that way, but now we're getting better. We're not there, obviously, but as we can just continue on and just knowing that our diversity is our strength and just continuing to move on as a society. But it's great to see that we were blazing trails, like you said.
Now, CFL Free Agency was supposed to open on February 13th. I guess that'll be the official opening of free agency. But with this whole legal tampering thing, it's almost like free agency starts a week early.
Yeah, thanks, Ed Hervey. We appreciate it. It's like, this is amazing. It literally is. I love nothing more than just to see and just you see when people say, oh, so and so is going to sign with so and so, and then like 20 minutes later, no, they signed somewhere else, and you're like, what? So it's been very fun. Frustrating, fun.
Yeah. We might get to February 13th and nothing happens. Like everybody's already signed. And
yeah, I think that is basically what's good. Well, it's a week earlier there in the news cycle, so I think they should be okay with it. But like there's going to be some, like I kind of feel bad for the players that are like going to fall through the cracks a little bit, and they're not the splashy free agents, like, and so, but those are the players that will get, signed as soon as it opens, because then the teams will officially be knowing who that they have and who they can't have. But we're seeing some players are getting paid, which is good for them. And some teams are getting pretty decimated here. So,
well, maybe it's the CFL that wanted to kind of avoid the Super Bowl, which is obviously happening on Sunday between Kansas City and San Francisco. But these two, these teams don't care. They want to build their rosters and get that done. Calgary is normally quite quiet in free agency, but hey, they've signed American linebacker Trey Walker. But I think the big addition to their team is defensive back DeMario Houston. Over the past few years, the Stampeders' defensive backfield, while full of guys with talent, they actually, I thought, dealt with some injury problems, and they were playing with a different combo in the defensive backfield almost every game. But DeMario Houston, great in Winnipeg, an absolute ball hawk, and a big addition to that Stamps back end of that defense.
Oh yeah, he's a playmaker, and like you said, I think Calgary kind of underachieved for what they should have in the defensive backfield there. So when you can sign a player with his caliber, like, it's nothing but great.
Now we go to BC, where it did seem like they were going to stick with what they had in their running game, but things have changed. With the BC Lions, they have brought William Stanback to town, and I really hope that they will, commit to the running game. And actually, through most of last year, I didn't think that Montreal committed to the run game as good as they could have with a guy like William Stanback. But he's going to the West Coast, and we'll be seeing if he's going to be putting on a show on the West Coast with Vernon Adams Jr., who of course is familiar with a guy like William Stanback. So they'll be behind that offensive line where they have been before in Montreal together. But it was one of the weaknesses I thought of the Lions last year, that running game. William Stanback helps them improve that in a hurry, I would say.
Yeah, he has. He's had some issues with the injuries, but the thing is, I don't think we've ever really truly seen what he can do other than that one season, just because he hasn't been utilized. Uh, Jason Moss started to utilize him a little bit more this year, but in previous years, like they were not focusing on committing to the run. So hopefully BC realizes that may have been part of their downfall last year, and that they can let William Stanback run. Just let him cook. Like he's dynamic. He's just a bull through a china shop. Like, just let this man run. So I hope that that's what they do.
Taquan Mizell was almost given a vote of confidence by the Lions recently, but how fast things change once you realize who's available in that free agent market. They've also extended defensive back Marcus Sales, so that is good for the Lions to have him back there. Now, the Edmonton Elks have completely revamped their special teams unit. They've brought over Boris Beatty from the Toronto Argonauts, who can kick, he can punt, maybe one of the most underrated players, a part of that Argos team over the past couple of years. I thought he's been solid, but the Argos bringing in Liram Hajrullahu back from the NFL, so they moved on from Boris Beatty, and Edmonton takes advantage of that. Now, not only do the Elks bring in Beatty, but they bring in Javon Leake, one of the most dynamic return men in the CFL. Now, we've seen this before, where the Elks have trouble with that return game. And I know they got a return touchdown in I hesitate to say it, but a meaningless game late last season. But Javon Leake is definitely a great addition to the return game in Edmonton. And all of a sudden, I think we might be seeing a little bit more special teams success now that the most outstanding special teams player is in Edmonton, Sheldon.
Yeah. First off, I don't know why Toronto decided to move on from Boris Beatty, because, like, he's still clutch.
I agree.
It's just very weird. But for them then to lose Javon Leake too, like, we made the joke a couple of years ago that it was the Toronto Stampeders, but now what is it, the Edmonton Argos? Like, like they're a lot of former Argos now.
Knots, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Poor
Actually,
Argo
they didn't get many.
Yeah, not as much as we thought.
Yeah,
as some people would have told us.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I do feel for a guy like Dean Faithful here. What a great story, I think, with the Elks last year. Yeah, you got to do the wave, the great celebration there. But when you can bring in the Canadian like Boris Beatty, or at least qualifies that way, and he can kick and he can punt, I think that's a pretty good guy to have on your roster. So that's a pretty good move for the Elks. They've also re-signed linebacker Tony Jones, but overall the Elks, quite, other than McLeod Bethel Thompson, I think they're going to be quieter in free agency, because they have a young sort of core, and most of them are locked up for the upcoming season. They got their Geno Lewis and their McLeod Bethel Thompson and Curly Gittens Jr. I think the Elks are actually in decent shape. And let's note this, Sheldon. We like to anoint the winner of the Grey Cup sometimes halfway through February because of all the free agent signings.
And it never works.
Yeah, that's where I'm going with it. Grey Cups aren't won in the winter. Well, close to the winter, but not in the it
When we're on that subject, can I say one other thing? The salary cap does not count in February either. All these people, oh, they're over the salary cap. Shut up. It doesn't matter. Okay? It matters on January 1st, 2025.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. That's actually an important point to bring up here. I guess where I was going with it, sometimes roster continuity is an important thing, not only with the coaching staff, but the players on the field. I think that's a big thing. That being said, if you want to give out Grey Cups in February, maybe the Riders are that team. As look at that, the green and white Thor hammer. So did they come out with that before? Or did you just buy that today or what?
Well, I did buy it today, but no, they've had it. They've had it for a while. Back in December when I was friend of the show, Cindy. She works for the Riders in the ticket office there, and she had like a friends and family discount, and I went there, and they had these there then, and I took a picture of it and I tweeted AJ and I said, hey, look, the Riders are already got the marketing going for you. So you're welcome, Rider fans. I manifested this. You're welcome.
It does look like AJ Ouellette, Grey Cup champion, all-star with the Toronto Argonauts, is heading to Saskatchewan. So the backfield there of Frankie Hickson and AJ Ouellette, that's a pretty powerful backfield, man. And
Thunder Lightning.
They're going to be a great group, I think, to reckon with. Now, they have extended a few guys, including Sean Bain Jr., who I think at times was utilized a lot last year, but with Trevor Harris hopefully healthy all season long, I think they'd be able to utilize him even more. Godfrey Onyeka has been re-signed, but there's some other signings that are coming to Saskatchewan that are going to make some splashes here. Let's start with Jalen Edwards-Cooper, strong side linebacker with the BC Lions, big hitter, makes plays. He's going to be in green and white. And then these are two massive signings. The Riders kind of revamping the linebacking core with Derek Moncrief on the way out. Jameer Thurman is now a Saskatchewan Rough Rider. Hey, I got a pick with him at Grey Cup while he was still a member of the Ticats. But great with the Stampeders, big with the Ticats, comes out west to Saskatchewan. That is a big ad for that defense. Corey Mace is familiar with Thurman from his time in Calgary, I'd imagine, before even going to Toronto. Well, and then Toronto became Calgary, and Toronto played Hamilton a lot. So
Toronto is Hamilton. So.
Yeah, see, it all
works out.
And then offensive tackle Jamarcus Hardrick is now a Saskatchewan Rough Rider. Now, we got Super Mario, we got Yoshi Hardrick. Do I sense a celebration brewing after a return touchdown, Sheldon?
I hope many celebrations after touchdowns. Hop on there, Super Mario.
I don't know. I think that's a match made in heaven right there. But I think Jamarcus Hardrick, one of the most colorful players in the CFL. He's got a great personality, and he's a great offensive tackle. And he moves just a few hours down the highway, staying on the prairies, leaving those Winnipeg Blue Bombers after forming just a great offensive tackle tandem with Stanley Bryant, a legendary tandem that actually, you could argue, turned the Bombers organization around. Like, it was a really big deal, those guys being on that same offensive line. But the Bombers, and we're going to have to talk about them next, they had to make some choices.
Yeah.
Here, and they decided to. I guess they didn't have enough money to pay Jamarcus Hardrick, and Jeremy O'Day and the Saskatchewan Roughriders took advantage of that, man.
Yeah, like Jeremy O'Day likes to sign players for the most expensive at their position, it seems, because he signed Lanier earlier to the most expensive D lineman. Now he signed.
Can you explain that one to me?
I don't know. Like, I thought Lanier had like an off season.
He's got a good agent. We'll say that.
Yeah, yeah. Probably lose Pete Robertson because of that, though. I'm gonna assume, but yeah, Hardrick. Like, I know even I have been critical of the Bombers O line last year, saying that it might have fallen off a little bit and got a little old. But when I was saying that, I was more talking about Stanley Bryant, who's going to be 39 this year, not Jamarcus Hardrick, who's 34. Like, I think 34 is pretty much prime O-line for a couple seasons, right? So that's huge. And then when the Riders sign AJ Ouellette, one of the best running backs in the league, like, let's say the Riders would have signed a player of his caliber last year or the year before when there was O-line issues and we were worried about our O-line, then maybe it's a waste of money spending that much money for a premier running back. But you're gonna have Ferland is another year older, another year wiser. Usually those junior football players take a couple extra years to develop. Yeah. Godber had a good year at center when he wasn't injured. You have Philip Blake on the other side as long as he can stay healthy. Like Philip Blake can be that. I'm not saying he's at the level of Stanley Bryant, but he can be that other anchor to Hardrick here, and the Riders could have, like, they had a pretty good running attack last year. Imagine what they're going to do this year. Like, it's fun to imagine. I have to admit, like, these past few days have kind of brought my Rider fandom back a little bit. Signing it's Corey Mace and the coaching staff. Yeah. Oh, and I've been here before, so as Michael Scott once said, I'm ready to be heard again.
Now, I guess we got to talk about the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and I know that
that's a shame.
I know that Kyle Walters, and maybe is not going to get the respect that he deserves here, but I didn't think they were going to be able to retain Brady Oliveira and Dalton Schoen.
No,
but they were able to pull that off. And I know it's at the expense of DeMario Houston. It's at the expense of Jamarcus Hardrick. I understand that. But they've also been able to bring in Chris Strevler. So it's give and take. Yeah. It's a salary cap. You can't have everything. You can't always get what you want, like the great Mick Jagger says. So having Oliveira and Schoen back in Winnipeg, I do think still they deserve a big thumbs up for making those deals happen.
Oh yeah, like the two of the best players at their position, right? So you got to clap your hands at that, but this is what happens when you have a winning team for so long and you have your players that are taking those hometown discounts. Like, I know Willie Jefferson still did this year, but eventually once the team is still good, but you're not winning the Grey Cup every year, then the players are going to start to think, hey, it's time for me to get paid. We helped you out here, but now, so it looks like Brady Oliveira and Schoen got paid, and good for them, but it was at the expense of a couple really good players. So now it's up to Kyle Walters to replace those guys, the next man up.
Yep.
That's plain and simple.
Well, and I think that's what we've been seeing with the Argos.
Thanks, guys.
They've been able to build up an impressive roster. John Murphy and Pinball and the organization in Toronto has been really strong the last few years. But now those guys want and deserve to get paid. So and they paid their quarterback big money. They lost a defensive coordinator that's very popular there. So that has ripple effects. And they've been able to re-sign a couple Canadian guys, and they're bringing back Dejon Brissett. They're bringing back Darius Sirocco, great offensive lineman, but Chad Kelly gets the big money. Things got to change with that roster. They bring in Liram Hajrullahu. I understand that. But losing AJ Ouellette, losing, Jamal Peters, he's going to be signing elsewhere. They had to let go Darius Bladek, and I know he wasn't starting for them last year, but I think he's got what it takes to be a pretty valuable offensive lineman in the CFL. Yep. Changes here for the Argos, and I know it's going to be the next man up mentality. There were a few times last year when they were playing backups and still smashing teams. So we're going to be getting to know some new faces in that Argo organization, but losing some of those starters, that's pretty tough. Like, does this mean we're going to see some new kings of the East Division in 2024?
It could, very easily could. Like, we technically do have a new king of the East because, Montreal won the Grey Cup, but and Montreal very quiet in free agency here too, but they already got their core back. So, very likely. But the other good thing that, and I say good, not good for these two fan bases, but when good teams, when their free agents go to other teams, it makes the rest of the league better. So, I know it's a tough pill for the Argo fans and the Bomber fans to swallow here, but it's for the good of the rest of the league, you guys. So it's okay. It's okay.
Hey, Calgary fans will tell you that they developed half the East Division. So,
and Calgary still hasn't missed the playoffs in 19 or 20 years or whatever it is. So, so everyone needs to be finding out what happened in that model, adapt it to their own team, and go from there.
Yeah, I'm with you there. The Ticats bring in Jamal Peters. So I'm sure that our Argo fans are going to be happy seeing him on Labor Day.
The one that got away.
Yeah. Defensive lineman Brandon Barlow. They've been able to keep their kicking tandem together. Mark Leggio and Corey Vedvik are back in Hamilton. Still waiting to see what's going to happen with Tim White, though. I don't know if the Dalton Schoen contract kind of sets the table for what a big name receiver is going to get. Schoen probably took a bit of a discount to stay in Winnipeg. He took $230K. I mean, with Gino pushing 300, I think Schoen could, with all the touchdowns he scored, could probably get another 30, 40K out of teams. I mean, maybe that is going to decide what a guy like Tim White is going to get. They have unveiled their coaching staff in Hamilton as well, which includes, man, I'm feeling old, man, when you see a linebacker like Brandon Isaac coaching the DBs and Naaman Roosevelt coaching the receivers. It's like, oh, we've been doing this for too long, man.
Yep. Yeah.
Scott Milanovich, the head coach in the Hammer, and Mark Washington staying on as the DC as well. I'm actually wondered if Hamilton was going to make a change at defense. Now, I talked about Tim White. Simone Lawrence. Like, is he going to free agency after fans in Hamilton have voted to call a snowplow Simone Lawrence? Like, you can't have a snowplow named after him and not have him on the field at Tim Hortons Field. Could we see him wearing other colors come June, Sheldon?
Anything's possible. Like, but I don't know. Like, I think if he still wants to play, I think he'll take less money to stay in Hamilton. I think at this point, time of his career, right? So it would help out Hamilton in that sense, but I just don't know if he's in their plan. He's obviously not in their plans long term because he's getting to the end of his career here. But it's interesting because it's not always a sure thing when that aging veteran decides to go and sign with another team for another year or two. Like there's the rare circumstances when it works, like Charleston Hughes when he went to Saskatchewan and then had a few more years there, and Henry Burris when he went to Ottawa and stuff like that. It doesn't always work out that way. So sometimes you don't want to go out on a lull, right? So he's he's a player that is so dynamic and polarizing that it's like perfect for the league and for the fans. So I hope he's there with Hamilton, but at the same time, I hope he signs with the Riders for chaos because can you imagine? Like, I'm here for stuff like that. So
we'll he might be an Argo, I think, with all the guys leaving Toronto.
And then he's still Hamilton anyway, so it's all good.
See? The nation's capital has been pretty busy in free agency again. They released Nate Behar, which actually that one kind of surprised me. I thought he had started to take on more of a leadership role in the Ottawa offense. Canadian, they already paid him $30K.
Yeah, guaranteed money. Yeah,
so that's money in the pocket for him. Good for him. We'll see if he does sign elsewhere, but Nate Behar is on the way out. They've released offensive lineman Jacob Ruby, but in turn bring in Darius Bladek. They were able to re-sign Justin Howell, Damon Webb, and receiver Justin Hardy, as well as running back Devontae Williams, and a big addition to their defense as Darius Pickett is now a Ottawa Red Black. There was a lot of talk about where he was going to end up as well. Another tough loss for the Argos. Now he's going down the highway to Ottawa. That'll be a pretty big addition to that defense, Sheldon.
Yeah, I was like thinking that the Riders were going to get Pickett and Peters, so it kind of sucks for me, but it's good at the same time because that gave us more money for the other players that we got, right? So, interesting, definitely interesting because those guys are dynamic and they will make their teams better. So, like we said before, the other teams in the East are getting better, it seems. Argos, it's up to them to see if they can retool quickly.
And that kind of, I guess, gets us caught up in all of the free agency dealings. I'm just taking one last look just to make sure that we haven't missed anything and we are as up to date as possible. I see that Ben Hladek has re-signed in BC, the Canadian linebacker there. So that's actually a pretty big extension for that Lions defense with Ryan Phillips at the helm there. But
yeah,
I mean that's about catching you up on free agency in the CFL, and that is with the communication window just opening 2 days ago. A lot of big names, but still a lot of dust to be settled when it comes to free agency. It's nice to have all this going on in the long, dark days of February, even if there is not as much snow as usual.
Yeah, or being a Cody Rhodes fan. We want Cody. Hashtag we want Cody.
I don't care what we want. I want Rocky, to be honest.
I know. I want Rocky too.
Like,
just give me a story.
The dream match on my doorstep that I've wanted for almost 10 years. And now it could be taken away by some whiny wrestling fans. That bothers me. But
it bothers me that my dream matchup that I was going to be there has got taken away by the new board member of TKO. So
I think, to be transparent, I think maybe we're more invested than We're always invested, but when you invest money on tickets and flights and all of that, you're even more invested. So Sheldon and I might get in a fist fight in Philadelphia, and
No.
It's the city of brotherly love, man.
We'll be hugging at the end, and one of us will be crying, the other one will be elated, but we'll be hugging each other. It's all good. You'll be the one happy, I'm sure. It's all good.
Okay, as long as I'm happy, then I'm all right. Okay, last thing. Kansas City or San Francisco?
Ugh, Taylor. I'm just cheering for Taylor.
Taylor's boyfriend?
I guess so, yeah. I'm over the Chiefs, to be honest, but I don't like the 49ers. So, yeah, I guess I'm cheering for the Chiefs.
Will Zach Collaros be at the Super Bowl?
I hope so. I hope so, because then CFL Twitter can get lit again.
I hope he wears a bomber hat and he gets on the broadcast.
Randy should be making sure that happens, to be honest. Free advertising.
Slip him $1,000 or something like that, and and then
he shouldn't need to be paid. He shouldn't need to be paid. He should rep this wherever he goes.
1 billion people will see that W and wonder what the heck it stands for.
I couldn't remember what finger. It's been that long since I've seen Austin Powers. Jeez.
I will be in Jasper National Park. Super Bowl always lines up with my anniversary. So I'm usually out for supper. And then we usually catch the halftime show. And then usually put on the Food Network or something. Which, for the record, I'm completely okay with.
I think Usher's got lost in the sauce this year. Not as many people are talking about him as Riri, and then last year's was phenomenal with all the rappers. And
he's got to bring Taylor on for a verse. No,
she's there to support her man. She's not there to work. But he better have Ludacris and Little John. I'll tell you that much.
Hey, I'd be all right with that.
Yeah. I will not be all right if he does not. Let's put it that way.
I hope The Rock comes out and gives a people's elbow to Cody Rhodes. Now we've come full circle. Enjoy the Super Bowl. And enjoy the opening of CFL Free Agency. We hope to have a newly signed free agent on the pod, but we'll try to work things out. Hopefully things happen here, and then we'll be back in a couple weeks to hopefully wrap up and put a bit of a bow on free agency, and enjoy that. Have fun. Happy anniversary to my beautiful wife, my better half.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. Number 8 coming in 1 week. Time flies when you're having fun. I'm sure for her, time has dragged on. But that's the way she goes. You can rate, review, and subscribe to Two and Out in your favorite podcatcher. And like and comment on YouTube as well. Subscribe there too. Continues to grow. I think we're 5 away from 200. I think we could get there by the end of February. It would be really cool if you said hi on YouTube. We'll talk to you in a couple weeks. I'm Travis Currah. He's Sheldon Jones. It is the Two and Out Podcast.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.